Hi my loves, and welcome to your cosmic weather report for the week ahead. Now, as many of you may be feeling, March is set to be one of the biggest months astrologically in 2025. And this week is where we get to begin to work with a lot of that energy. So I've got so much to tell you about this week, but please do pay attention and work with the energies of this week, because it can be quite honestly life-changing if you do. Now, our astrological week begins on Tuesday as Mercury and Venus are conjunct, so they're meeting in the sky. Now, this is really powerful for quite a few reasons. The first one being that Mercury and Venus are meeting at almost the exact degree point that our Aries new moon solar eclipse will happen on the 29th of March. And so these two planets meeting here are activating this degree point so that we can begin to really work with these eclipse energies. We get our full moon lunar eclipse this week, and then these planets are already working with that new moon solar eclipse, so we can really dive deep into these eclipse energies. Now remember that eclipses are soul portals. They're opportunities for your soul to come in and realign you back on your soul's path. They're seen as like a course correction for your soul, and that's going to be a really big theme of this week. The other thing that's really interesting is that Venus is already retrograde. Mercury, public service announcement, is going to station retrograde at the end of the week. And Mercury and Venus are going to travel almost together through their retrogrades over almost exactly the same degree points. And so this is bringing a huge reset moment. It's a reset of your heart, your mind, your beliefs, your values, your relationships. And as they're moving over the beginning degrees of Aries, the final degrees of Pisces, and coming back again, and this is a huge closing out, clearing, completing. It's allowing us to leave behind old versions of ourselves to step into who we always came here to be. So this is just really powerful energy now of adjusting, resetting, recalibrating your sense of self and your worth and your values and who you are. So this is going to be really important energy to work with. Now on Wednesday then, we get the Saturn cazimi. So this is where the Sun and Saturn are going to meet in the sky. This is going to work with this energy so beautifully, because this is now going to ask you to find new inner foundations of who you are, what you want, what you will and won't accept. And most of all, it's going to ask us to really commit to very deep spiritual practices, commit to a very deep connection with your soul self, with the universe, with source, God, goddess, whatever name you give it, but a really deep connection with something greater, and the fact that you are part of something greater. And really ask us to now anchor into, deepen into, find a very strong connection with surrender and faith and trust. So just putting our faith in the universe, that the universe has a plan, that our souls have a plan, and getting out of our own way so that we can allow it all just to unfold as it was always meant to. And especially with this eclipse portal happening now, where our souls are going to come in and help redirect us, it's so important now that we take our hands off the steering wheel, that we don't allow human us to exert our will, and we want it this way and this way, and it has to happen like this, and pushing and struggling and gripping and manipulating. It's time now just to really take our hands off the steering wheel and to find that deep anchored sense of true self, like soul self, deep trust in it all. Like you trust yourself and the universe and life so much that you can then let go and surrender and dive deep into faith and really know that it is all working out for you just as it should. And this is also asking us to create a very deep, strong inner foundation, because if we look at the outside world right now, the outside world can look like a little bit of a mess. And I know I've said it to you many times before, but I'll say it again. We have to stop looking outside of ourselves for things out there to change before we can be happy or who we want to be or to have what we want. No one's coming to save us. So we need to now look within. And so rather than looking outside of you for safety, this false sense of safety, it's finding now that deep foundation within you where you trust and you know, and you allow yourself to really be in that sacred divine place within. So if you're looking at the outside world and it feels unstable, uncertain, unsettling, stop looking out there. Go and find that deep foundation within you that's going to hold you, anchor you, and really support you through these times that we're in. Now, Friday then, we get the Virgo full moon total lunar eclipse. And this is just going to be such a powerful purge and release and letting go. The Virgo moon, full moon, is always the final full moon before we have the spring equinox, so before we move into a new astrological year. So it always brings a sense of completing, clearing, letting go. What do we not want to take into a new astrological year with us? But because this is a lunar eclipse, there are going to be endings at this moon. There's going to be things that need to complete, to close out, to be cleared. And again, the more that you try to grip and hold and control, the more challenging it's going to feel. So at this moon, it's just really allowing all that you've outgrown to be eclipsed from your life. And just a little note on that, just remember that nothing meant for you is ever going to be removed from your life. But what is going to be removed from your life, if you allow yourself just to really surrender to the energy of the eclipses, is anything that you've been holding on to that isn't yours to hold on to. Any direction you've been trying to travel in that isn't your direction to travel in. Anywhere that you've been pushing closed doors or pushing against dead ends or trying to just grip and hold on to things. These are the things that are really going to be cleared from your life. And this full moon is just going to bring such a powerful illumination of where you've been getting stuck, where you've been getting in your own way, where you've been continuing to move in a direction that deep down you've known, or staying in your comfort zone and staying in the familiar where there's this knowing that there's more to this, I can grow into more than this. This moon is just going to bring such a big clearing and releasing. And then this full moon lunar eclipse will be followed then on the 29th of March by our Aries new moon solar eclipse that we've already mentioned, because Mercury and Venus have been activating this degree point. So already we're going to be able to see what it is that we need to let go of to be able then to move into new beginnings with that Aries new moon solar eclipse. Now, to help us to go even deeper into this, on Saturday, Mercury will station retrograde. Now, as I've mentioned, Mercury and Venus are going to travel pretty much together through the retrograde period. So they're going to go through the first degrees of Aries, back into the final degrees of Pisces, and then back through those final degrees of Pisces into the first degrees of Aries. And so this is huge. It's such huge energy because these planets are moving across the very end and the very beginning of the zodiac wheel. So this is a really big death rebirth portal. Now, remembering Mercury retrograde, a lot of people like to joke about exes coming back around and things coming back from the past. And especially with this and Venus retrograde, you might find this is true. But remember, and it might not be the actual people that come back, but it might be the familiar or the old emotions or the memories starting to stir again, or you're finding yourself back stuck in something that happened so many years ago that you've never really been able to move past and move beyond. All these things are going to resurface, and things only come back around in a retrograde if they are unfinished business, loose ends, and things that really need completing and closing and clearing. And so that's what this Mercury and Venus retrograde are going to do for us, is to help us to really see what needs completing, closing off and clearing so that we can move into new beginnings, where we keep going back into the comfort zone and ask us instead to expand into something new. And what you're going to find over this period, especially over this eclipse portal, is this sense that You can't go back anymore. It's like that door is closed now. Like you can't go back there anymore. You can't go back to who you used to be. You can't go back to accepting what you used to accept. You can't go back to shrinking yourself so small anymore. So there's going to be a sense of something's changed, something's shifted. I can't go back there anymore. But it may be that as we're traveling through the eclipse portal, through the retrograde period, through the clearing out, before we get the spring equinox and then the Aries new moon solar eclipse, that there's a sense of being in the void, in the in-between. I'm not who I was anymore, and I know I can't go back there anymore, but I'm not quite yet sure who I'm becoming or where I'm going. And I know that this can sometimes feel a bit uncertain and unsettling and confusing, but please use this period to really then allow yourself to grow into who you came here to be, to explore who you came here to be. And with Venus and Mercury being retrograde at the same time, this is such a huge, it's a reset. So it's like checking in with yourself. Is your mind supportive? Are your beliefs supportive? Is your inner world supportive? Are you living by your values? Do you know your values? Do you know yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you allow yourself to feel and express what you need to feel and express and speak what you need to speak? Do you constantly abandon yourself, or are you there for yourself even through the difficult and challenging times? And so this is going to be this real reevaluation and a growth into a new version of you as we allow ourselves to almost travel in this retrograde eclipse portal place where we're in between those worlds. We're in between the old world and we're not quite yet in the new world, but in there is a realm of absolute possibility. Anything is possible now in this period. And one thing that we're really moving through with all this Pisces energy is really dreaming a new world into being. Who do you want to be? What do you want for yourself? What do you want for your life? And so this is going to be a time of really ending what you've outgrown and shedding old versions of yourself, and maybe trying to go back into that old version and then just being like, oh, this doesn't feel good anymore. It's like if you sometimes go back to somewhere that you used to live many, many years ago, and you go back there and you go like, wow, and you remember who you were when you lived there and what you were going through. And then you're like, but I don't live there anymore. Like that's not who I am anymore. That's not where I am anymore. There's no going back there. And so now it's almost like thanking the past for its lessons, thanking everything that happened, but then almost like turning our back on it, closing the door and saying, okay, now where do I go next? And beginning to take those first few steps into this unknown that's only really unknown to human us, because to soul us, our souls know the full expansion and possibility and everything that's waiting there for us when we just begin to take these steps. So this is a really big period that I need you to let go of what is closed, complete, finished, everything you've outgrown, without perhaps knowing yet what you're going into, and in that allowing the space then for it all to unfold, for it all to expand and come to life. And so this is a really exciting time to be in. I know that for human us, change, and there is going to be a lot of change over this eclipse portal. There's going to be a lot of things being cleared out. It's going to be a really big purge. The energy over the next week or so is going to feel like a really big purging energy. And I know to human us that can feel a bit unsettling, and then we want to grip even more. So notice where you're trying to grip even more and come back to that deep inner foundation and connection that Saturn cazimi wanted to create for us of, I'm in full trust and surrender. I don't know what's coming next, but I know that my soul does. And I'm just going to fully move out of my own way, let go of what is no longer meant for me, and allow whatever is for me to begin to come in. Because when you're gripping, you can't receive what's wanting to come in for you. So this is where we just fully let go and we surrender, and with open hands then we allow all that wants to come to us to begin to come through with the spring equinox and with that Aries new moon solar eclipse energy that's going to come towards the end of the month. So this month is going to be a big, powerful portal This week begins it. Let's move into that portal together, and there is so much transformation on the other side. I'm sending so much love.